I'm Marcus Rivera, 47, and I've been out of prison for 6 months after serving 12 years for a crime I didn't commit. When I called my mother from the halfway house, hoping for just one supportive word after losing everything, my career as a prosecutor, my marriage, my daughter's childhood, she said something that shattered what was left of my soul. God's punishing you for something. Marcus, the innocent don't go to prison. But she didn't know that in 72 hours, the real killer's confession would surface, and she'd learn exactly why her golden child, my brother Daniel, had been visiting her every Sunday while I rotted in a cell. If you've ever been betrayed by the people who should protect you most, hit that like button, because what happened next changed everything. The night that destroyed my life started like any other. October 15, 2012. I was in my office on the 7th floor of the district attorney's building, surrounded by case files and empty coffee cups. As a senior prosecutor, I'd built my reputation on putting dangerous criminals behind bars. The irony of that still burns. I remember checking my watch. 11:47 p.m. I needed to finish preparing for the Valdez trial. Miguel Valdez ran drugs through half the city, and we finally had him. Our key witness, Jessica Huang, was set to testify in 3 days. She'd been nervous during prep, but I'd assured her we'd keep her safe. Another promise I couldn't keep. My desk phone rang. Sarah's voice, tired but patient. Marcus, Emma asked if you'd be home for breakfast tomorrow. She has that science presentation. Tell her I'll make pancakes, I said, marking another deposition. The special ones with chocolate chips. She's 8. Marcus, she won't wait forever. I know. This case ends Thursday. Then I'm taking time off. That trip to Disneyland we talked about, Sarah sighed. That particular exhale that meant she'd heard this before. Just try to get some sleep tonight. After we hung up, I worked another 3 hours. The security camera in the corner blinked steadily, recording everything. I thought nothing of it then. Why would I? That camera was supposed to protect me, not become a crucial piece of evidence that would somehow vanish. At 3:17 a.m., I finally packed up. The parking garage was empty, except for my sedan and a few other workaholics' cars. I drove home through empty streets, NPR droning about economic forecasts. Normal, mundane, the last normal night of my life. I slipped into bed at 4 a.m., trying not to wake Sarah. Emma had left one of her drawings on my nightstand, stick figures labeled Daddy, Mommy, and me standing outside a crayon house. I smiled and set my alarm for 7:30. Pancake time. The pounding on the door came at 6:43 a.m. Police open up. Sarah shot upright. What's happening? I was already pulling on yesterday's shirt. Stay here. Keep Emma in her room. But when I opened the door, I knew something was catastrophically wrong. Detective Raymond Walsh stood there with 6 uniformed officers. I'd worked with Walsh before. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Marcus Rivera, you're under arrest for the murder of Jessica Huang. The words didn't compute. What Jessica? She's. What are you talking about? Hands behind your back? Ray, this is insane. Jessica's my witness. Why would I, Marcus? Don't make this harder. The handcuffs were cold. Sarah stood in the hallway, Emma peeking out from behind her legs. My daughter's eyes were wide, confused. The stick figure drawing was still on my nightstand. Daddy. Emma's voice was small. It's okay, sweetheart. Daddy's just helping with something at work. I'll be back for pancakes. The last lie I'd tell her for 12 years. They put me in the back of the squad car. Mrs. Chen from next door was already outside, watching. By noon, the entire neighborhood would know. By evening, it would be on the news. Prosecutor arrested for witness murder. At the station, Walsh finally spoke. Jessica Huang was found dead in her apartment at 1 a.m., shot twice, execution style. I was in my office until after 3. Check the security footage. But they wouldn't find it. Someone had made sure of that. My mother arrived at the county jail that afternoon, dressed in her church clothes. She sat across from me, separated by scratched plexiglass, and her first words weren't, "Are you okay?" or "This is a mistake." Instead, she clutched her purse and said, "What did you do?" That's when I should have known. Even then, facing the unthinkable, she assumed my guilt. "Mom, I didn't kill anyone. You know me." She studied me like I was a stranger. I thought I did. To understand my mother's reaction, you need to understand our family. Daniel and I were born 3 years apart. Me first, the responsible one. From childhood, our roles were cemented. I brought home straight A's. Daniel brought home detention slips. I joined debate team. Daniel joined a gang at 15. I got into Harvard Law. Daniel got arrested for grand theft auto. But here's the thing about my mother. Daniel's failures were never his fault. It was bad influences, misunderstandings, the system working against him. When I graduated summa cum laude, she gave me a card. When Daniel got his GED in prison, she threw a party. Your brother never would have put me through this, she said. Through the glass? I almost laughed. Daniel, who'd stolen her car twice. Daniel, who'd pawned her wedding ring for drug money. Daniel, who'd been in and out of lockup since he was 16. But Daniel knew how to play her. Every crime came with it. Tears, promises to change, and the magic words, "I love you, Mom, you're all I have." I'd been too busy building a career to master manipulation. Where is Daniel? I asked. Working. He has a new job. Very important. He couldn't get away. What kind of job? She waved dismissively. Business consulting or something. He drives a Mercedes now. That stopped me cold. 6 months ago, Daniel had been couch surfing and asking me for loans he'd never repay. Now he had a Mercedes and a job he couldn't leave to see his brother arrested for murder. Mom, doesn't that seem strange? To you? What's strange is my prosecutor's son sitting in jail. Daniel's finally turned his life around. At least I have one son who isn't breaking my heart. The guard signaled time was up. Mom stood, gathering her purse. I'll pray for you. Marcus? Maybe. God's trying to tell you something, Mom. Wait, I need you to believe me. I didn't, but she was already walking away. That night, lying on a concrete bunk, I thought about every family dinner where Daniel's empty chair was explained away. He's going through something. He just needs understanding. Meanwhile, was there every Sunday, every holiday, every crisis. The reliable son, the successful son, the boring son. I thought about the last time I'd seen Daniel, 2 months before my arrest. He'd shown up at my office, needing just a small loan. $5,000. I've got this opportunity, he'd said. This guy I met, he's got connections. Import-export? Big money? I'd given him $500 and a lecture about schemes. He'd left angry, muttering about how I always thought I was better than him. Now he drove a Mercedes while I sat in a cell. The math was starting to add up to something ugly, but I couldn't see the full equation yet. All I knew was that my mother had already chosen which son to believe, and it wasn't the one who'd never let her down before. The trial began 6 months later. By then, the case against me had transformed from impossible to ironclad. My defense attorney, Paul Brennan, was competent but overwhelmed. The evidence kept piling up, each piece more damning than the last. They found your DNA at the scene, Paul told me during one of our prep sessions, under Jessica's fingernails. That's impossible. I never went to her apartment. The lab doesn't lie, Marcus, but labs process what they're given, and someone had given them exactly what they needed. The prosecutor, Janet Mills, had been a colleague once. We'd grab drinks after Wins complained about judges over coffee. Now she avoided my eyes as she laid out the state's case with surgical precision. Marcus Rivera had means, motive, and opportunity, she told the jury. Jessica Huang was scheduled to testify against the Valdez cartel. Someone wanted her silenced. Someone with access to her safe house address. Someone who knew her routine. Someone she trusted enough to let inside her apartment at night. The security footage from my office building, my alibi had mysteriously corrupted. The backup system had failed. The IT department couldn't explain it. These things happen, they said, but they don't. Not to evidence in a murder case. Sarah testified on day 3. She wore the blue dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. Her voice shook as she answered questions. What time did your husband come home that night? I was asleep. I don't know exactly, but you told detectives it was around 4 a.m. I thought so, but I can't be certain. Mrs. Rivera, did your husband seem agitated recently? Stressed? He was always stressed. The job, did he ever mention Jessica Huang? Yes, she was his witness. Did he seem particularly concerned about her? Sarah glanced at me. In that look, I saw doubt creeping in like fog. He said she was nervous. He said he needed to keep her safe. Janet Mills nodded sympathetically. And how did that make you feel? Your husband so concerned about another woman's safety? Objection, Paul called out, but the damage was done. My mother testified the next week. She entered the courtroom in her Sunday best. Wouldn't look at me. Janet Mills treated her gently, like a fragile bird. Mrs. Rivera, I know this is difficult. Can you tell us about Marcus as a child? He was always intense, secretive. Even as a boy, he'd hide things, his feelings, his problems. He never asked for help, never admitted when something was wrong. Pride, I suppose. Did this concern you? My mother dabbed her eyes. A mother knows when something's not right with her child. Marcus carried darkness inside him. I prayed it wouldn't come to this. Paul tried to salvage it on cross-examination. Mrs. Rivera, has Marcus ever been violent? Not that I saw. Has he ever been in trouble with the law? No. In fact, he's been a prosecutor for 12 years, dedicated to justice. Yes. Then, why do you think he's capable of murder? My mother finally looked at me. Because the evidence says so, and evidence doesn't lie. The crushing blow came when they presented the gun. My service weapon, reported stolen 2 years earlier, recovered from a storm drain near Jessica's apartment. My prints were on it. Of course was my gun. I filed a police report, I told Paul desperately. Someone broke into my car. The report shows you waited 3 days to file it. I was in trial. I didn't realize it was gone immediately. Paul's expression said everything. Juries don't like convenient explanations. Daniel never showed up. Not once. Mom mentioned he was traveling for business. Couldn't get away. She said it like it was reasonable, like any brother would miss his sibling's murder trial for a business trip. Emma came once. Sarah brought her on a day I wasn't testifying. My daughter, now 8.5, sat in the gallery clutching a stuffed rabbit. When she saw me in shackles, she started crying. Sarah quickly took her out. That image, Emma's terrified face, haunts me more than any prison cell. The verdict came on a Thursday. Guilty, 25 to life. As they led me away, I saw my mother in the gallery. She was crying, but there was something else in her expression. Relief. Vindication. I'm sorry, she mouthed, but she wasn't. Not really. In her mind, God's justice had been served. The secretive son, the one who thought he was better than everyone, had finally been exposed. The bailiff's handcuffs were tight as he led me back to holding. Behind me, I heard Janet Mills telling reporters that justice had been served, that no one was above the law. She was wrong about that. Someone was very much above the law. They just weren't in handcuffs. Maximum security prison has a sound. It's not just the obvious noises, the gates, the shouts, the buzzers. It's an underlying frequency of contained violence. Like a wire pulled too tight. You feel it in your teeth. They processed me on a Friday. Strip search. Delousing photos. The guard handing out uniforms looked at my file and smirked. Prosecutor, huh? You're gonna have a real good time here. The escort to my cell was a gauntlet. Word travels fast in prison. By the time I reached Block D, everyone knew who I was. What I'd been. The catcalls started immediately. Hey lawyer boy, remember me, prosecutor's here. Fresh meat. How many of us you put in here? Counselor. I recognized some faces. Cases I'd won. Lives I'd helped destroy in the name of justice. The irony wasn't lost on me or them. My cellmate was a lifer named Thomas, doing 44 a double homicide. He looked me over once and turned back to his book. Stay quiet, stay in the cell, and maybe you'll last the week. I lasted 3 days. It happened in the yard during mandatory exercise. I was walking the perimeter, head down, avoiding eye contact. Someone called my name. When I turned, the fist caught me square in the jaw. I went down hard, tasting blood and dirt. That's for my brother, you piece of shit. I didn't recognize him, but it didn't matter. I'd prosecuted hundreds of cases. Everyone in here had a brother, a cousin, a friend I'd sent away. The beating would have been worse, but the guards intervened. Not out of compassion, they just didn't. Want the paperwork? If I died? Solitary confinement for my protection? 23 hours a day in a concrete box? 1 hour for shower and exercise. In solitary, time becomes elastic. Minutes feel like hours, hours feel like days. I started writing letters to Emma in my head, conversations we'd never have. Dear Emma, today I saw a bird through the window slot. It reminded me of the robins we used to watch in the backyard. Do you still put out birdseed? Dear Emma, I'm sorry I missed your birthday. 9 is a big number. Are you still afraid of double digits? Dear Emma, your mom says you're doing well in school. I knew you would. You get your brains from both of us, but your kindness is all you. After 2 weeks, they moved me to protective custody, a special wing for cops, prosecutors, child molesters, anyone likely to be killed in general population. We were the lowest of the low, even among criminals. That's where I met Jerome, a former public defender doing time for embezzlement. He gave me the first useful advice. Forget who you were. That man's dead. Focus on who you need to be to survive. But I couldn't forget. At night, I'd lie on my bunk and replay every moment of Jessica Hong's case. Who knew she was testifying? Who had access to her location? The Valdez cartel had reach, but this felt personal. The frame was too perfect, too specific to me. Sarah came to visit after 1 month. She looked older, tired. Emma wasn't with her. How is she? She has nightmares. She asks when you're coming home. What do you tell her? The truth? That you made a mistake and have to stay away for a while? I didn't make a mistake, Sarah. I didn't kill anyone. She looked at me through the glass. And I saw our marriage ending in her eyes. The jury said you did. The evidence was planted. By who? Why? You sound paranoid. Someone wanted Jessica dead and me gone. 2 birds, 1 stone. Marcus, stop. Just stop. Accept what happened. Maybe then we can figure out how to move forward. You mean move on? She didn't deny it. After she left, I went back to my cell and wrote my first real letter to Emma. Not the imaginary ones, but words on actual paper. I told her I loved her. I told her to be good for her mother. I told her that sometimes bad things happen to good people, but that didn't make them bad. I never sent it. What was the point? What could a convicted murderer teach his daughter about goodness? That night, Jerome asked me, you really didn't do it? No. Then you better figure out who did, because nobody else gives a damn about the truth once you're in here. He was right. If I wanted answers, I'd have to find them myself. But first, I had to survive long enough to look. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday, 6 months into my sentence. The guard dropped them on my bunk like junk mail. Legal documents for you, Rivera. I knew what they were before I opened them. Sarah had been distant during her last visit, talking about moving forward and Emma's best interests. Still, seeing it in black and white felt like another verdict. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Petitioner, Sarah Marie Rivera. Respondent, Marcus James Rivera. CDCR #J47829. The grounds were straightforward. Felony conviction. Imprisonment exceeding 7 years. Irreconcilable differences. Her lawyer had been thorough. She wanted the house, the cars, the savings, full custody of Emma with no visitation rights. A clean break? I called her that night using my phone privileges. You got the papers? Her voice was businesslike, prepared. Sarah, please, can we talk about this? We've talked, Marcus, for 6 months. We've talked. I can't do this anymore. What about Emma? She needs her father. She needs stability. She needs to not be known as the murderer's daughter. That word murderer from her lips felt like another conviction. I'm innocent. Sarah, you know me. 12 years together, you know who I am. I thought I did, but innocent men don't get. Convicted innocent men don't have their DNA at crime scenes. Innocent men don't. She stopped, composing herself. Sign the papers. Marcus, let us go. Is there someone else? The pause told me everything. That's not what this is about. Who is it? Marcus, I have a right to know who's going to be around my daughter. You have no rights. You gave them up when you killed that woman. The line went dead. 2 days later, my mother visited. She wore black like she was already mourning me. We sat in the visiting room. Protective custody got face-to-face visits. One small mercy, and she pushed a manila envelope across the table. Daniel wanted me to give you this. Inside were business cards. Daniel Rivera, senior consultant, Pacific Rim Enterprises. The cardstock was expensive, the logo embossed. My brother, who 6 months ago couldn't hold a job at a car wash, was now a senior consultant. Impressive, I said. He's doing well, taking care of me. Since she gestured vaguely at my surroundings. Since I can't. Don't be bitter. Marcus, it doesn't suit you. What does Daniel consult on? Exactly. Import strategies, he says. International business. He travels to Asia monthly now, and this started when? She shifted uncomfortably. I don't remember exactly. Around the time of your situation, my situation, like I had a bad cold instead of a life sentence. Mom, doesn't the timing seem strange to you? I get arrested? And suddenly Daniel's wealthy. Her face hardened. Don't you dare. Don't you dare try to drag your brother down with you. He's finally made something of himself, and you can't stand it. That's not. You were always jealous of him. Always had to. Be the perfect son. The successful one. Well, look where your success got you. She stood up. Daniel offered to pay for an appeal lawyer. Quality representation. Maybe you should be grateful instead of suspicious. With what money? His money. Clean money. Honest money. She leaned in, her voice dropping. He visits me every Sunday, Marcus. Every single Sunday. Where were you before all this? Too busy with your important job to have dinner with your mother? She left without saying goodbye. That night, I signed the divorce papers. What else could I do? Fight it from prison? Demand rights I couldn't exercise? Sarah was right about one thing. Nima didn't deserve to be the murderer's daughter, but I kept thinking about Daniel's sudden success. Senior consultant. Pacific Rim Enterprises. I'd prosecuted enough organized crime to recognize a front company when I heard one. Import strategies could mean anything. Or it could mean exactly what I thought it meant. Jerome was playing solitaire. When I got back to the cell, rough day, my wife's divorcing me, and my brother's gotten mysteriously rich since my arrest. He paused, mid-deal. Mysteriously rich? How? Went from broke to driving a Mercedes in 6 months. Now he's an import. Consulting. You think he's connected to your case? I think someone paid him off. Or he's into something that started around the time I was framed. Jerome gathered his cards thoughtfully. You know what you need? Access to information. Real information, not prison rumors. How? Law library. Best internet access in the joint, and they can't monitor your legal research. Privacy laws. He smiled. Start working on appeals. Other guys' appeals. Build a reputation. Get library privileges. It was a plan. Not much of one, but better than rotting in my cell. Wondering how my life had been dismantled so efficiently, that night I wrote another letter to Emma. This one, I would send, Dear Emma, your mom and I are getting divorced. This doesn't mean I love you any less. Sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices. Be good for your mom. Study hard. Remember that no matter what anyone tells you, you are not defined by other people's mistakes. Love always. Dad, I put it in. The outgoing mail, knowing Sarah would probably intercept it. But I had to try. Emma deserved to know her father hadn't abandoned her. Even if the rest of the world thought I was a monster. The guard came by for lights out. Rivera, you got a new neighbor coming tomorrow. Some white-collar guy. Fraud or something. New blood. In protective custody, another destroyed life seeking safety among the damned. At least I'd have company in hell. Prison has its own geography, and after a year inside, I'd mapped every inch of it. The library was Switzerland-neutral territory, where gangbangers and shot-callers discussed legal strategies instead of street politics. The yard was divided into invisible territories, Nortegos by the basketball court, Sharonos near the weight pile, whites by the handball wall, blacks controlling the bleachers. Protective custody had our own yard. Smaller, sadder, but safer. I'd changed by then. Lost 30 pounds. All of it soft living. What remained was lean, alert, necessary. I walked different. Shoulders back but not challenging. Eyes forward but peripherally aware. Prison walk. You learn it or you bleed. The law library became my sanctuary. 8 computers. Outdated but functional. Legal databases. restricted internet access, and most importantly, privacy screens. The librarian was an old lifer named Books who'd killed his wife 30 years ago and found redemption in Dewey Decimal. "You're the prosecutor," he said my first day there. "Was? No such thing as wasn't here. You are what you were, forever." He handed me a cart of law books to shelf. "Make yourself useful, and I'll make sure you get computer time." I started simple, helping guys with appeals, habeas petitions, sentence modifications, word spread. The former prosecutor who'd help with your case for commissary goods, ramen noodles became my currency. Honey buns, my bonuses. Joe Rivera, a kid named Terrence, approached me one afternoon. "You helped my celly get 2 years knocked off. I need the same." I reviewed his case. Armed robbery, but the weapon enhancement was questionable. "I can file a motion, but I need something in return." "What you want?" "I got connections on the outside. Information about a company called Pacific Rim Enterprises." His face changed. "That's Triad territory. Holmes, you don't want to know about that? Triad, Chinese organized crime. My brother was working with the Triads. I helped Terrence anyway. Got him 3 years reduced. Payment and information would come later, when he felt safer talking. My reputation grew. Marcus Rivera, the jailhouse lawyer who could find the loopholes. Even guards started treating me with wary respect. I wasn't just another con anymore. I was useful. One case changed everything. Robert Chen, doing life for a murder in Chinatown. He insisted he was innocent, framed by corrupt cops. Sound familiar? They planted evidence. He told me. DNA, just like you. Same detective too. Walsh. Detective Raymond Walsh. The man who'd arrested me, who'd built the case against me. How many others had he framed? I dove into Chen's case. The parallels were disturbing. Key evidence mysteriously appearing, security footage vanishing, witness testimony that didn't add up. But Chen had something I didn't witness, who'd seen Walsh plant evidence but was too scared to testify. Where's this witness now? Dead. Overdose, supposedly. 2 weeks before my trial, the pattern was becoming clear. Walsh wasn't just a dirty cop. He was an artist. Framed jobs so perfect they held up in court. But who was paying him, and why had I been targeted? Late nights in the library, I built my map, not of the prison, but of the conspiracy that had put me here. Pacific Rim Enterprises connected to known Triad fronts. The Valdez cartel's competition mysteriously eliminated around the time of Jessica's death. Daniel's employment beginning days after my arrest. My brother hadn't just benefited from my downfall. He'd orchestrated it. The realization hit me during count one evening, standing by my bunk, waiting for the guard to pass. I understood. Daniel needed me gone. But why? What had I been close to discovering? I thought back to the Valdez case. Jessica Huang wasn't just testifying about drug running. She had financial records, money laundering trails that led higher than street-level dealers, international connections, import-export companies like Pacific Rim Enterprises. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Jerome said after count. I figured it out. My brother set me up. Your own blood. He's working with the Triads. They needed the Valdez cartel gone to take over distribution. Jessica Huang had information that would have exposed their operation. 2 birds. One stone: eliminate the witness and the prosecutor who might connect the dots. Jerome whistled low. "That's cold. What are you gonna do? Build a case? The same way I used to? Piece by piece, evidence by evidence. From in here? From in here." That night, I drew my own map on a legal pad. Connections, timelines, financial trails I'd need to verify. It would take years, but I had nothing but time. My mother visited the next week. She looked older, grayer, but still dressed impeccably. Daniel's money keeping her comfortable. "You've lost more weight," she observed. "Prison, diet plan, very effective. Don't be glib." "Marcus, how's Daniel? Still consulting?" "Busy, successful. He wanted me to tell you he's set aside money for Emma's college fund." My hands clenched under the table. "My brother, paying for my daughter's education with blood money. That's generous of him. He's a good man, Marcus. Despite everything you think about him, everything I think." "Mom, have you ever wondered where his money really comes from?" Her face shuddered. "I don't question blessings, neither should you. Even if those blessings are paid for with innocent lives." She stood abruptly. "I won't listen to this. You're in prison for murder, and you want to accuse your brother of what? Being successful? You always were jealous of him." "Mom, no. I'm done. Daniel said you'd try to poison me against him. He was right." She gathered her purse. "I won't be visiting again, Marcus. It's too painful, seeing what you've become." She left me sitting there, another link to the outside world severed. But I didn't need her visits anymore. I needed the truth. That night, I started writing everything down. Names, dates, connections. My own murder book. But this time I was investigating my past, not prosecuting someone else's crime. Books found me in the library at 2 a.m. Technically after hours, but he allowed it. Burning the midnight oil, building a case. He looked at my notes, the web of connections spreading across legal pads. Dangerous game, digging into Triad business from inside. I'm already doing life for a murder I didn't commit. How much worse? Can it get Books smiled sadly. Oh son, it can always get worse. The question is the truth worth the price? I looked at my map, at Daniel's name circled in the center like a spider in his web. Yes, I said, it is. By year 3, the shoebox under my bunk held over 300 letters. Each one addressed to Emma, each one unsent. They were my diary, my confession, my way of staying sane, in a place designed to drive men mad. Dear Emma, you're 11 today. Double digits for a whole year now. Are you still afraid of them? I remember when you thought turning 10 meant you had to act like a grown-up. You were so serious that whole week before your birthday, practicing being mature. Then you saw the birthday cake and squealed like you were 5 again. Dear Emma, your mom sent a photo through the lawyer. You're so tall now. When did that happen? You have my eyes but your mother's smile. That's good. Her smile could light up rooms. Mine was always too careful, too practiced. A prosecutor's smile. Keep hers. Dear Emma, I heard you made the honor roll. Of course you did. You get your brains from both sides, but your determination, that's all you. I used to watch you with your homework, tongue sticking out just a bit when you concentrated. Do you still do that? The letters were more than memory exercises. They were my way of staying connected to who I'd been, who I still was beneath the prison number and the reputation. Father, not convict. Dad, not murderer. Jerome found me writing one night. Couldn't sleep again. Protective custody does that too. Much thinking time. Another letter. Her birthday's next week. 12. Do you ever send any of them? No, why not? I set down the pen. What would I say? Happy birthday from your killer dad. She's better off without me. That's bullshit, and you know it. Her mother remarried. David something. Accountant. Safe. Stable. Boring. Everything I'm not anymore. You're still her father. No, I'm the man who killed a witness. That's all I'll ever be to her now. Jerome sat on his bunk, considering my daughter was 15 when I went in, refused to see me for 2 years. Then one day, she shows up. Know what she said? I needed to hate you for a while, but I never stopped needing my dad. Emma doesn't even remember me anymore. Not really. She was 8 when you were framed. Yeah, I know the song. You've sung it enough? He pointed at the shoebox. Those letters. They're not for her. They're for you. You're too scared to find out if she'd write back. He was right, of course. The letters were my safety net. As long as I never sent them, I could imagine Emma might forgive me someday. If I sent them and heard nothing back, that hope died. I pulled out one from 2 years ago. Dear Emma, today I saw a group of kids touring the prison. Scared straight, program. One girl looked like you saw determined chin. Same way of crossing her arms when she's uncomfortable. I wanted to tell her to run, get out, stay away from places like this. Stay away from people like me. But maybe that's what I'm really telling you, Christ Rivera. You really do love the self-pity. It's not, it's exactly that. You know what your problem is. You're still thinking like a prosecutor. Everything's black and white, guilty or innocent, good father or bad father. Life's messier than that. That night, I wrote a different kind of letter. Emma, I don't know if you'll ever read this. I don't know if you even remember me anymore. But I need you to know 3 things. I didn't kill anyone. I think about you every single day. Whatever you've been told about me, whatever you believe, I love you. Your dad always asterisk. I sealed it, addressed it, and put it in my legal correspondence. Privileged mail. Sarah couldn't intercept it. 3 weeks later, I got a response. Not from Emma, from Sarah's lawyer, a cease and desist order. Any further attempts to contact Emma would be considered harassment and could result in criminal charges. Criminal charges against a man serving life for murder. The irony was almost funny, but there was something else in the envelope. A sticky note, definitely not from the lawyer. She kept the letter. D. David, the boring accountant. He'd made sure I knew Emma had read it. I sat on my bunk, holding that sticky note like it was made of gold. She kept the letter. My daughter. Read my words, and didn't throw them away. It wasn't much. It wasn't a relationship or forgiveness, or any kind of future. But it was something. That night, I organized all the unsent letters chronologically. 307 in total. A one-sided conversation spanning years. If I ever got out when I proved my innocence, she could read them all. See that? I never stopped being her father, even when I couldn't be there. You look almost happy, Books observed the next day in the library. She kept my letter. Good hope's dangerous in here, but it's the only thing that keeps us human. I dove back into my research with renewed energy. The web connecting Daniel to the triads grew more complex. Shell companies layered on shell companies. Money flowing from drugs to real estate to legitimate businesses. And at the center, Pacific Rim Enterprises. With my brother as senior consultant, one name kept appearing in corporate filings. Terry Chen, CEO of several connected companies. The same Terry Chen who'd been a small-time enforcer when I was prosecuting street crime. He'd moved up in the world. Just like Daniel. I added Chen's name to my wall of connections. Somewhere in this maze was the key to my freedom. I just had to find it before the truth got buried too deep to excavate. That night, I wrote one more letter. Dear Emma, I know you kept my letter. That's enough for now. Someday I hope you'll want to know the truth. My mother started visiting again in year 5. She came 4 times a year, like clockwork, always on a Sunday, always after church, always with stories about Daniel. He bought me a house, she announced during her first visit back, in Monterey Park, 3 bedrooms, a garden. Says I shouldn't have to worry about rent anymore. I sat across from her in the visiting room, noting the new jewelry, diamond earrings, a gold watch, gifts from her successful son. That's generous of him. He's doing so well. Marcus, 3 offices, now Los Angeles, San Francisco, Hong Kong. He flies business class everywhere. She leaned forward conspiratorially. He's dating a judge's daughter. Can you imagine? Our Daniel still hers and mine, even though I'd been erased from the family photos? Which judge? Judge Patricia Chen, from the Superior Court. I kept my face neutral, but inside, alarms were screaming. Patricia Chen presided over major criminal cases. Her daughter dating my brother wasn't coincidence, it was strategy. Hup, did they meet? Some charity function. Daniel's very involved in philanthropy now. Donates to police foundations, youth programs. He says it's important to give back. Police foundations, buying influence with the same people who'd framed me. Mom, where does Daniel's money come from? Her face tightened. His business? Import consulting. What does he import? I don't interrogate him. Marcus, I'm just grateful one of my sons takes care of me. There it was. The knife slipped between my ribs with maternal precision. Over the years, her visits followed the same pattern. Daniel's latest success, his newest acquisition, his growing influence. A Mercedes became a Bentley. The house in Monterey Park gained a vacation home in Big Bear. Charity galas with mayors and congressmen. He visits every Sunday. She never failed to mention, never misses one, no matter how busy. Year 7, she brought photos. Daniel at a ribbon-cutting ceremony for a youth center he'd funded. Daniel shaking hands with the police chief. Daniel at her birthday party, surrounded by family members I hadn't seen since my arrest. Your cousins ask about you sometimes, she said, flipping through the pictures. Daniel tells them you're doing well. Considering, what else does Daniel tell them? That you're getting the help you need. That prison might be the best thing for you. Help you face what you did. I didn't do anything, Mom, she sighed. That particular exhale of a mother disappointed in a lying child. The denial isn't healthy. Marcus, Daniel says a lot of things. He cares about you. He set up a trust for when you get out. $50,000 to help you start over. Blood money. Guilt money. Shut up and disappear money. I don't want his money. Pride, Marcus, always your weakness. She gathered the photos. He's even hired investigators to look into your case. See if there's grounds for appeal. That stopped me cold. What investigators? Private ones. Very expensive, he says. They're reviewing everything, looking for mistakes in the prosecution, looking for loose ends. More likely, making sure the frame held tight. Year 9 brought more revelations. Daniel's company had expanded into shipping, logistics, government contracts. He had lunch with senators, golfed with federal prosecutors. The triad connection was buried so deep under legitimate business that it was almost invisible. Almost. He's thinking of running for office, Mom mentioned casually. City council first. People are encouraging him. My brother, the criminal who'd framed me for murder, running for city council. That's ambitious. He wants to make a difference. Clean up the streets, he says. Make the city safer. I almost laughed. Daniel would definitely clean up the streets of competition. Books had been right. It could always get worse. My brother wasn't content with wealth. He wanted power, legitimacy, respectability, everything I'd had before he destroyed my life. During one visit in year 10, Mom seemed different, older, frailer, despite Daniel's money, keeping her comfortable. The doctors say it's my heart, she admitted. Too much stress over the years. Mom, Daniel's been wonderful, drives me to every appointment. The best doctors, private rooms. She paused. He asked me to talk to you about something. Here it came. The real reason for the visit. He wants to know if you'd consider a deal. Admit guilt, show remorse, and he'll use his influence to get you early parole. You could be out in 5 years instead of 15 more. Admit to killing Jessica Huang, for the family, Marcus for closure. For Imu, she could have her father back while she's still young. My daughter deserves a father who tells the truth. The truth. Mom's voice cracked. The truth is that one of my sons is in prison and the other takes care of me. The truth is that Daniel's the only reason I'm not in a state nursing home. What's your truth worth against that? She left without saying goodbye. That night, I mapped out Daniel's empire again. Every connection, every timeline. The kid who couldn't graduate high school had built a criminal enterprise, sophisticated enough to hide in plain sight. He'd bought cops, judges, politicians. He'd framed his own brother, and slept soundly every Sunday after visiting our mother. But empires built on lies have weak foundations. Somewhere in Daniel's carefully constructed world was a crack. I just had to find it before he became too powerful to stop. Jerome watched me work, concerned. You're obsessing again, he wants me to confess. Take a deal, admit guilt. Maybe you should consider it. 5 years versus 15, would you? Confess to something you didn't do? To see my daughter again? Maybe, but I couldn't. Even if it meant dying in prison, I couldn't give Daniel that final victory. He'd taken my freedom, my family, my future. He wouldn't take my truth. The next Sunday, I knew Mom was sitting across from Daniel at some restaurant, listening to his plans for political office, wearing jewelry bought with blood money. Every Sunday for 10 years, while I rotted in a cell, he'd put me in. I picked up my pen and wrote another letter to Emma, not about Daniel, or the case, or my innocence. Just a father telling his daughter about the birds he could see from his window, and how they reminded him of freedom. By year 11, I was a legend in the law library. Marcus Rivera, the prosecutor turned jailhouse lawyer who'd gotten 17 inmates released, reduced sentences for 43 others, and never lost an appeal he thought had merit. My cell looked like a law office briefs stacked on every surface, case law memorized like scripture. Rivera, you got a minute? A new fish named Carlos stood at my cell door, holding a manila folder like it contained the Holy Grail. What's your case? Armed robbery. But check this out. The gun they say I used was already in evidence from another case. Cop must have planted it. I'd heard variations of this story 100 times. Usually bullshit, but I took the folder anyway. Professional habit. That's when I saw the arresting officer's name. Detective Raymond Walsh. My hands stilled. When was this? 3 years ago. My public defender said the evidence was solid. Told me to take a plea. Tell me everything about your arrest. Carlos's story was eerily familiar. Anonymous tip. Walsh arriving alone, finding evidence in plain sight. Security, footage that mysteriously didn't record, DNA that appeared where it shouldn't be. You ever heard of Terry Chen? I asked. Carlos went pale. Man, I don't know nothing about relax. I'm not fishing. Just answer the question. Yeah, I heard of him. Runs the docks. Why? The place you supposedly robbed, was it in Triad territory? Near Chinatown. Yeah. But I wasn't muscle for nobody. I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah, I've heard that too. But this time, I believed it. The pattern was too familiar. Walsh wasn't just dirty, he was a cleanup artist. Framing people who got too close to Triad operations. I took Carlos's case and dove deep. 3 weeks of research revealed what I'd suspected. Walsh had a type. Always men with records but trying to go straight. Always crimes that removed them from specific neighborhoods. Always evidence that appeared like magic. Holy shit, Jerome said, reading my notes. He's been doing this for years. At least 15 that I can document. Maybe more. But why? What's the connection? I showed him the map I'd built. Each framed conviction created a vacuum, removed a potential witness, cleared territory for expansion, eliminated competition, and every single case benefited operations later connected to Pacific Rim Enterprises. To Daniel. Your brother's been playing chess while everyone else played checkers, Jerome observed. He learned from watching me prosecute, use the system against itself, make the evidence fit the narrative, control the story. So what now? Now I build a case. A real one. I started with Carlos, filing a habeas petition that laid out Walsh's pattern of misconduct. Within days, word spread through the prison system. Other inmates came forward with similar stories. The Latino who'd been framed for murder when he witnessed a Triad execution. The black teenager convicted of assault for defending his sister. From Triad recruiters, the white-collar criminal who'd asked too many questions about suspicious shipping manifests. All arrested by Walsh. All with evidence that didn't match their stories. All creating space for Daniel's empire to grow. Books watched me work one night, shaking his head. You're painting a target on your back. It's already there. This is different. You're not just claiming innocence anymore. You're exposing a system. Goody leaned in close. They killed that witness? Jessica Huang? What makes you think they won't kill you? Because I'm already buried. Can't kill a ghost? But he was right. About the danger? Within a week, I started noticing things. Guards who'd been friendly turned cold. My mail arrived opened, sometimes missing pages. During yard time, even in protective custody, I felt eyes on me. Then came the warning. I was in the law library, researching connections between Walsh and known Triad associates, when Terrence, the kid I'd helped years ago, sat down across from me. You need to stop, he said without preamble. Stop, what? The Walsh thing. The questions about Pacific Rim? All of it. Why? He glanced around nervously. People are talking, important people. They're saying you're becoming a problem. Good, no, not good. You don't understand. Your brother, he stopped, realizing he'd said too much. What about my brother? Nothing. Forget it. Terrence, what do you know about Daniel? He stood to leave, but I grabbed his wrist. In prison, touching another inmate uninvited was dangerous. But I needed answers. He's protected, Terrence whispered. Connected all the way up. Cops, judges, politicians. You go after Walsh. You go after all of them. I'm already serving life for something I didn't do. What else can they take? Terrence looked at me with something like pity. You got no idea what they can take. But keep pushing, you'll find out. That night, I called my lawyer, a tired public defender who'd given up on my case years ago. I need you to file something, I said. Marcus, we've been through this without new evidence. I have new evidence. A pattern of misconduct by the investigating detective. 17 cases of suspected frame-ups. Silence on the line. Then, you're serious. Dead serious. I'm sending you everything. 6 boxes of research. This is huge. If what you're saying is true, it's true, and it goes all the way to the top. More silence. Marcus, I need to be honest. Taking on something like this, exposing corruption at this level, it's dangerous. For both of us. I know. I have a family. Kids. So do I. A daughter who thinks I'm a murderer. He sighed. Send me what you have. I'll look at it. No promises. It was a start. That night, lying on my bunk, I thought about the men Walsh had framed. How many were still inside, serving time for crimes they didn't commit? How many had taken pleas, convinced they couldn't fight the evidence? How many had died behind bars, knowing they were innocent but unable to prove it? And at the center of it all, my brother, Daniel the failure, who'd become Daniel the kingpin, using the system I'd served to destroy anyone in his way, including me. I had something Daniel didn't count on: time and obsession. 11 years of building my case, piece by piece. 11 years of connecting dots he thought were invisible. In chess, a pawn that reaches the 8th rank becomes a queen. I'd been a pawn long enough. It was time to change the game. The letter arrived on a Thursday, exactly 11 years and 3 months into my sentence. No return address. Prison mail gets screened, but legal correspondence has protection. Someone had marked it as attorney-client privilege. Inside, a single line typed on plain paper: check the security footage again. Building 7, Server Room 3, Archive QN4, 847. My hand shook. For 11 years, the prosecution's key point was that the security footage from my office building had been corrupted, lost, irretrievable. The backup system had failed, they said. A perfect storm of technical failures that destroyed my alibi. But someone knew different. I called my lawyer immediately. Paul Resendez, the public defender who'd reluctantly taken on my Walsh investigation, sounded tired when he answered. Marcus, it's 7 in the morning. I need you to subpoena security footage from my old office building, specifically from Server Room 3, Archive QN4, 847. What? Marcus? That footage was destroyed. No, it wasn't. Someone kept a copy. How do you know this? Anonymous tip? But Paul, if this footage exists, it proves you were in your office during the murder. His voice sharpened. Fully awake now. I'll file the motion today. But Marcus, who would keep this hidden for 11 years, and why reveal it now? I had theories, but no proof. Maybe someone with a guilty conscience. Maybe someone who'd finally found the courage to defy Daniel. Maybe someone who wanted me out for their own reasons. I didn't care about their motives. I cared about the truth. 2 weeks later, Paul visited in person. His usual defeated expression had been replaced by something I hadn't seen in years. Hope, it exists, he said without preamble. The footage exists. My throat closed. After 11 years, I couldn't speak. Building management had a redundant backup system that archived to a separate server. Someone mislabeled it during a system migration, filed it under the wrong year. It's been sitting there this whole time. What does it show? Paul smiled the first time I'd seen him genuinely happy. You, in your office. Time-stamped from 8 p.m. October 15th until 3:47 a.m. October 16th. Continuous footage. No gaps. No way you could have left to kill Jessica Huang. I put my head in my hands. 11 years. 11 years of my life stolen because someone mislabeled a file. There's more, Paul continued. The footage shows something else. At 2:23 a.m., someone else enters the building using an employee key. The angle isn't great, but the build, the walk, Marcus, it looks like you. My head snapped up. What, someone who could pass for you at a distance? Similar height? Similar build? They knew where the cameras were, kept their face turned away. But here's the interesting part. They used Jessica Huang's witness protection key, the one that was supposedly in her apartment when she died. The frame job went deeper than I'd imagined. Someone had stolen Jessica's keycard, used it to create a false trail, then planted it back at the murder scene. Only someone with inside knowledge could have pulled that off. Someone like a prosecutor's brother, who'd heard enough shop talk to understand the system. Can you enhance the footage? Get a clear image. Already working on it. But Marcus, even without identifying the intruder, this footage proves your innocence. You couldn't have been in 2 places at once. When can we file? I'm drafting the motion for a new trial now. Given the magnitude of this evidence, we might even get the conviction vacated immediately. After Paul left, I sat in my cell, numb. Jerome found me there an hour later. You look like you've seen a ghost. They found it. The security footage. It exists. Jerome sat down hard. Holy shit, you're getting out. Maybe, probably. I don't know. That's good news, right? So why do you look like someone died? 11 years. Jerome, I've been in here 11 years because someone misfiled video. My daughter grew up without me because of a clerical error. No, Jerome corrected. You've been in here because your brother framed you. The misfiled video was just lucky for him. He was right. Without the footage, Daniel's frame held perfectly. With it, everything unraveled. The next few weeks blurred Together, Paul filed motion after motion. The prosecution, faced with incontrovertible evidence of my innocence, fought every step. They didn't want to admit they'd convicted the wrong man. More importantly, they didn't want to examine how the evidence against me had been manufactured. But the footage was undeniable. Me, in my office, during the exact time Jessica Huang was murdered across town. The judge had no choice. The court finds that newly discovered evidence materially undermines the conviction of Marcus Rivera, Judge Thompson read from the bench. I watched via video link from the prison, my heart hammering. Furthermore, this evidence suggests potential misconduct. In the original investigation, this court hereby vacates the conviction and orders Mr. Rivera's immediate release pending retrial. Retrial. They were still pretending they might prosecute me again, but I was going free. Paul visited that afternoon, grinning like he'd won the lottery. 48 hours. Marcus, processing takes 48 hours. Then you walk out. What about Walsh? What about the frame? One step at a time. First, we get you out. Then we go after the people who put you in. That night, I packed my few belongings. The law books I'd accumulated. The letters to Emma, still unspent. The photos she'd drawn at 8 stick figures of a family that no longer existed. You scared? Jerome asked, terrified. Good, means you're sane. World's changed in 11 years. You've changed. What if she doesn't want to see me, Emma? Then you respect that. But you keep the door open. You let her know you're there when she's ready. I handed in my case files on the other Walsh frame-ups. Continue the work. These men deserve justice too. What about your brother? I thought about Daniel, probably in his Bentley, planning his city council run, believing his past was buried with me. He'll get what's coming. But first, I need to remember how to be human again. The next morning, a guard came to my cell. Rivera, pack up, you're moving to pre-release. 47 hours until freedom. 47 hours until I could start hunting the truth about my brother's empire. 40-7 hours until my real sentence began, learning to live with what had been stolen from me and deciding what to do about it. As they transferred me to the release unit, I passed a window overlooking the yard, the same yard where I'd been beaten, the same walls that had held me for 11 years. Tomorrow, I'd walk through the gates, but I wouldn't be free. Not until Daniel paid for what he'd done. Not until every man he'd framed got justice. Not until my daughter knew the truth. The anonymous letter writer had given me a key. Now I had to figure out which doors it opened, and what I'd find behind them. The day before my release, everything changed again. Paul arrived at the prison looking shaken, carrying a folder marked urgent in red ink. Marcus, sit down. What's wrong? Did they reverse the release? No. You're still getting out tomorrow? But something's happened. Terry Chen is dead. The name hit me like a punch. Terry Chen, the triad boss, whose name appeared throughout my research, connected to Pacific Rim Enterprises, to Daniel, to everything. When, 3 days ago, apparent suicide in a motel room in Riverside. But Marcus, he left a note, a confession. Paul slid the folder across the table. Inside were photos of a handwritten letter, 10 pages of neat script. I recognized the format immediately. A dying declaration, admissible in court even though the witness was dead. My name is Terry Chen. I am dying of pancreatic cancer. The doctors give me 2 months. I have decided not to wait. Before I go, I must clear my conscience. On October 15, 2012, I personally shot and killed Jessica Huang at her apartment in Los Angeles. I was paid $50,000 to eliminate her before she could testify in the Valdez case. She had financial records that would have exposed money laundering operations connecting the Valdez cartel to my organization. My hands trembled as I read. After 11 years, the truth in black and white, the murder was carefully planned. We needed someone to take the false someone connected to the case but unable to prove their innocence. Daniel Rivera came to me with a proposal. His brother, Marcus Rivera, was the prosecuting attorney. Daniel provided inside information, his brother's schedule, security codes to the DA building, even DNA samples from Marcus's home. I had to stop reading. My own brother had collected my DNA from a hairbrush, a coffee cup. He'd been in my house, around my family, planning my destruction. Daniel Rivera was more than an informant. He orchestrated the entire frame. He knew which evidence to plant, how to make it stick. He said he'd learned from watching his brother work how to build an airtight case. In exchange, I brought him into the organization. He proved valuable, intelligent, ruthless. Within 6 months, he was running Pacific Rim Enterprises. Keep reading, Paul urged. It gets worse. Detective Raymond Walsh was already on our payroll. He ensured the planted evidence was discovered properly. He made sure the security footage disappeared. He guided the investigation away from any leads that might expose the truth. But I kept copies of everything, records of payments, recordings of conversations, photos of Daniel Rivera planting evidence. I thought I might need insurance someday. Now, dying, I realize this insurance means nothing. What good is leverage? When you're dead, the next pages detailed dates, amounts, names, a roadmap of corruption that went beyond my case. Daniel hadn't just framed me. He'd built his empire on framing others. Each false conviction removed an obstacle, created an opportunity, eliminated a threat. Marcus Rivera was the test case. When it worked, when a respected prosecutor could be destroyed, so easily we knew we could do it to anyone. Over the years, Daniel refined the process. 17 men sit in prison today for crimes they didn't commit. I know because I committed many of them. The list of names followed. Some I recognized from my jailhouse work. Others were new. All were serving time while Daniel Why confess now? Not nobility, not conscience. Fear. I've done terrible things, but I never destroyed my own blood. Daniel Rivera terrifies me because he felt nothing when he buried his brother. A man who can do that is capable of anything. Last month, Daniel visited me. He knows I'm dying. He wanted to ensure my silence, offered to care for my family after I'm gone. But I saw his eyes cold, calculating. He wasn't offering, he was measuring, deciding if I was a loose end that needed cutting. I will not wait for Daniel Rivera to decide my fate. I choose my own end. But first, the truth must be known. The final pages contain details only the killer would know. The caliber of the gun, where Jessica was standing when shot, what she was wearing, things never released to the public. This is it, Paul said quietly. This confession, combined with the security footage, Marcus, you're not just innocent. You're the victim of an elaborate conspiracy. Where are the records Chen mentioned? The evidence he kept. That's the problem. Riverside PD searched his motel room, his house, his office. Nothing. Either he was lying about keeping insurance, or someone got there first. Daniel, of course. He'd always been 3 steps ahead. But the confession is enough, right? To clear me completely. More than enough. The DA's office is in crisis mode. They're talking about reviewing every case Walsh touched, every conviction connected to organized crime in the last decade. Marcus, this is huge. I stared at Chun's handwriting. The man who'd killed Jessica, Huang, who'd destroyed my life, who'd helped my brother build a criminal empire, dead by his own hand, finally afraid of the monster he'd helped create. What about Daniel? Paul's expression darkened. That's complicated. Chun's dead, can't testify. The confession implicates Daniel, but without corroborating evidence, he walks. For now. But the FBI's involved now. Organized crime, public corruption, RICO charges. Your brother made a mistake, letting Chen live this long. Dying men have nothing to lose. That night, my last in prison, I couldn't sleep. Tomorrow, I'd walk, free, exonerated by the confession of my frame's architect. But Daniel was still out there, still rich, still powerful, still pretending to be the success story while I'd been the family shame. Jerome found me sitting up at 3 a.m. Chen's confession spread across my bunk. Can't sleep? The man who destroyed my life just confessed from beyond the grave. My brother paid him to do it. And tomorrow I walk out of here with no job, no family, no life to return to. But you walk out. Yeah? I walk out. That's more than Chen got. More than Jessica Huang got. Take the win, Marcus, then figure out the rest. He was right. I'd been buried alive for 11 years. Tomorrow, I'd claw my way back to the surface. What I did after that, how I faced Daniel, how I approached Emma, how I rebuilt some semblance of a life would have to wait. But as I packed Chen's confession with my other papers, I made myself a promise. Daniel thought he'd won. He thought his brother, the prosecutor, was gone forever, replaced by a broken ex-con who'd slink away quietly. He was wrong. The prosecutor was gone. But what was left might be worse for Daniel. I'd learned things in prison he couldn't imagine. Patience, brutality, how to build cases from nothing but determination and time. Chen was right about one thing. Daniel felt nothing when he buried me. But I felt everything, and I remembered it all. The gates of California State Prison opened at 8:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. 11 years, 4 months, and 16 days after they'd closed behind me. I walked out in clothes donated by a charity, jeans that didn't quite fit, a button-down shirt that smelled like industrial detergent, shoes that pinched my feet. I carried my possessions in a clear plastic bag, $187 in gate money, a folder of legal documents, and 347 unsent letters to my daughter. No one was waiting. I'd told myself I didn't expect anyone, but some stupid part of me had hoped maybe Emma, now 20, curious about the father she barely remembered, maybe Sarah, drawn by nostalgia or guilt, maybe even my mother, finally ready to see the truth. The parking lot was empty except for Paul's Honda Civic. Ready, he asked? No. Good, means you're honest. First stop, halfway house. Get you settled. The world had changed. Everyone stared at phones like they held the secrets of the universe. Cars looked different, sleeker and quieter. Buildings I remembered were gone, replaced by glass towers and coffee shops I didn't recognize. The halfway house sat in a rough part of downtown, a 3-story brick building that screamed ex-convicts live here. My room was 8 by 10, barely larger than my cell, but with a door that locked from the inside. Freedom, such as it was. Take a few days, Paul advised. Adjust. The world's going to feel too big, too fast. That's normal. But I couldn't wait. That afternoon, I took 3 buses to UCLA, Emma's school. I'd learned that much from the lawyer. She was pre-med, following neither parent's path. Smart girl. I sat on a bench near the medical library, watching students flow past. Young, confident, unburdened by the weight of destroyed lives. Then I saw her. She looked like Sarah at that age, same determined walk, same way of tucking hair behind her ear when thinking, but the eyes were mine, dark and analytical. She was laughing with friends, backpacks slung over one shoulder, medical, textbooks clutched to her chest. My daughter, the 8-year-old with chocolate chip pancakes and crayon drawings, was gone, replaced by this accomplished stranger. I didn't approach. What would I say? Hi, I'm your father. Turns out I didn't murder anyone. Instead, I watched her disappear into the library and felt the weight of 11 stolen years crushing my chest. That night, I found her social media profiles. Privacy settings kept me out of most, but her Instagram was public. Photos of college life, hospital volunteering, spring breaks with friends, a whole life lived without me. One photo stopped my scrolling at maybe 50. Wearing a future doctor t-shirt, standing between Sarah and a man I assumed was David, the accountant. They looked like a family, a real family. Complete. In prison, I'd imagined reconciliation. Emma running into my arms, tears and forgiveness, making up for lost time. The reality was a 20-year-old who didn't need me, who'd built a good life. From the wreckage of our family, I called my mother that night. The number I'd memorized hadn't changed. Hello? Her voice was older, frailer. Mom, it's Marcus. Silence. Then how did you get this number? It's the same number you've had for 30 years. What do you want? I'm out. The real killer confessed. I was innocent, Mom. I tried to tell you. Daniel said you might call. Said you'd been released on a technicality. A technicality. Mom? Terry Chen confessed to the murder. He explained how Daniel stopped. Her voice turned sharp. I won't listen to these lies about your brother. He's been nothing but good to this family while you were gone. Mom, please, just meet me. Let me show you the evidence. Evidence. Like the evidence that convicted you. Marcus, I'm 73 years old. I've made my peace with what happened. Don't disrupt my life with your conspiracy theories. Mom, the line went dead. I sat on my narrow bed in the halfway house, holding the phone like it might ring again. It didn't. Outside, sirens wailed the sound of other lives being destroyed, other families being torn apart. I pulled out the letters to Emma. 347 conversations she'd never heard, apologies she'd never received, love she'd never felt. In prison, they'd seemed important. Now they felt like the rambling of a ghost. But I wasn't a ghost. I was free, broken, alone, and lost, but free. The next day, I walked the streets of Los Angeles like a tourist in my own life. The DA's office building where I'd worked now, with different security, different faces, my old coffee shop now, a yoga studio, the park where I'd taught Emma to ride a bike still there, but with new playground equipment. I ended up at the cemetery where Jessica Wong was buried. Her grave was simple, well-maintained. Someone still brought flowers. I stood there, this woman I'd failed to protect becoming real again, after years of being just a case file. I'm sorry, I told her headstone. I promised to keep you safe. She knew you tried. I spun around. A young woman stood behind me, early 20s, holding fresh flowers. You're Marcus Rivera, she said. Not a question. Yes. I'm Amy. Jessica was my cousin. She placed the flowers carefully. I've been following your case. When the confession came out, when we learned what really happened, my family wanted to contact you. I failed her. Amy shook her head. Terry Chen killed her. Your brother arranged it. You were just another victim. We stood in silence, two people connected by tragedy. She talked about you, Amy said finally. Said you were the first prosecutor who really listened, who made her feel safe. She trusted you. That trust got her killed. No, their greed got her killed, their fear of what she knew. Amy turned to face me fully. My family doesn't blame you, Mr. Rivera. We're glad the truth finally came out. She left me alone with Jessica's grave and my guilt. 11 years in prison, and I'd never felt as trapped as I did standing free in that cemetery. Paul called that evening. The DA wants to meet. They're offering a settlement. How much? $10 million for the wrongful conviction. $10 million. Blood money for blood years. I'll think about it. Marcus, take it. Start fresh. You've earned it. Earned? Like I'd worked for it instead of having it stolen from me. That night, I sat in my room writing one more letter to Emma. Emma, I'm out. Free, innocent, officially. I know you have no reason to care, no obligation to respond. You've built a life. Without me, and from what I can see, it's a good life. I'm proud of you. I won't intrude, won't show up uninvited, won't demand anything you're not ready to give, but I want you to know I'm here. A phone number, an address, an open door if you ever want to walk through it. Your father still. Always. I found her campus mailbox and slipped it inside. No return address if she wanted to find me. Paul had made sure she could. 3 days later, I saw Daniel. I was at a food truck, relearning the taste of real street tacos. When a Bentley pulled up, my brother stepped out. Designer suit, perfect. Confidence radiating like heat. He saw me and smiled. Marcus, heard you were out. My hands clenched. 11 years of imagining this moment, and all I could do was stare. No words for your little brother. He stepped closer. You look good. Prison agreed with you. Lean hard. What do you want, Daniel? Just wanted to see how you're adjusting. Offer some help maybe. Must be tough. Starting over. The audacity burned. You destroyed my life. His smile never wavered. The system destroyed your life. Wrong place, wrong time. Tragic, really. Chen confessed. Named you specifically. Chen was dying. Pancreatic cancer makes people hallucinate, say crazy things. Daniel straightened his cuffs. Besides, he's dead. Can't clarify his delusions. You think you've won, Daniel laughed. This isn't a game, Marcus. It's life. You spent 11 years learning that lesson. I spent them building something real. Built on innocent lives. Built on opportunity. But hey, I'm not heartless. Mom misses you, even if she won't admit it. I could arrange something. Smooth things over. Stay away from me. Or what? His mask slipped for just a moment, revealing the cold calculation beneath. You'll investigate me. Build a case. Marcus, you're nobody now. An ex-con with conspiracy theories. I'm a respected businessman with connections you can't imagine. He was right. In the real world, evidence mattered less than power. And Daniel had spent 11 years accumulating power while I'd been learning to survive. Enjoy your freedom, he said, returning to his car, such as it is. As the Bentley pulled away, I realized the truth. I was out of prison, but not free. Not while Daniel walked untouched. Not while 17 innocent men still sat in cells. Not while my daughter believed I might be a killer. Freedom, I was learning, was just another kind of sentence. The only question was how I'd serve it. The $10 million settlement check cleared on a Friday. I stared at the numbers in my bank account, more money than I'd ever imagined having. Payment for years that couldn't be returned. I used the first $100,000 to hire a private investigator named Chen Luno, relation to Terry. She assured me, just an unfortunate coincidence in names. I want everything on Pacific Rim Enterprises, I told her. Every shell company, every transaction, every connection to my brother. She studied me across her desk. A small woman with sharp eyes. You know what you're asking. These people don't like scrutiny. Neither did I, when I was a prosecutor. You're not a prosecutor anymore. No, now I'm motivated. She took the case within 2 weeks. Chen Lu had mapped out Daniel's empire better than my 11 years of prison research. Pacific Rim Enterprises was just the tip. Underneath lay a web of companies shipping, logistics, real estate, even a chain of legitimate restaurants that laundered money through inflated supplier costs. Your brother's smart, she admitted. Everything's technically legal on paper. The illegal money gets washed so many times, it comes out clean. What about the murders? The frame-ups, no direct connections. He insulates himself, uses intermediaries, coded communications, cash payments. Terry Chin's confession is the only thing directly linking him to criminal activity. And dead men make poor witnesses. But Chen Lu had found something interesting. Every month, Daniel visits a storage unit in Monterey Park, pays cash, always goes alone, spends about an hour inside. What's in it? That's what we need to find out. Surveillance is harder outside prison. Inside, everyone watches everyone. Outside, you need cause, warrants, legal justification. But Chen Lu knew people who knew people. Within a week, we had photos of Daniel at the storage facility, Unit 447. I can't legally get inside, she warned. But if someone happened to rent the unit next door, and if the walls happened to be thin, I rented Unit 448 the next day. The first time I heard Daniel's voice through the wall, my hands shook. He was on the phone, speaking Mandarin, another skill he'd acquired while I was locked up. But I recognized one phrase, the prosecutor. Me, still on his mind after all these years. I started spending hours in that empty unit, pressing recording equipment against the shared wall. Most days, nothing. But sometimes Daniel would arrive and make calls he couldn't make anywhere else. Slowly, I built a library of conversations one-sided, often coded, but revealing. The cop wants more money, he said during one visit. Tell him the well's dry until he delivers those case files. Another day, if the widow keeps asking questions, remind her what happened to her husband. And once, chillingly, my brother's becoming a problem again. That night, I checked into a motel under a fake name. If Daniel saw me as a problem, I needed to be careful. Chen Lu called the next morning. I found something. Terry Chen's insurance, the evidence he mentioned in his confession. It exists. My heart stopped. Where? Safety deposit box in San Gabriel, under his mother's maiden name. The FBI missed it because they were looking for his aliases, not his family tree. Can we access it? Not legally, but his daughter wants to meet you. She has power of attorney for the estate. Teresa Chen was nothing like her father, soft-spoken, haunted by the weight of his crimes. We met in a dim sum restaurant in Alhambra, neutral ground. I know what my father was, she said. Without preamble, I've spent years trying to distance myself from his life. But when I read his confession, when I saw your name, I remembered you. Remembered me? From before. You prosecuted one of my father's associates when I was in high school. He was furious, said you were incorruptible. Ironic, considering what he did to you later. Your father destroyed my life, and your brother destroyed his soul. That's not an excuse, just an observation. She slid a key across the table. Box 1847. First National Bank of San Gabriel. Whatever's in there, it's yours. My father owed you that much. I went alone. The bank was old-fashioned, with marble floors and hushed voices. The safety deposit box was small, unassuming. Inside, 3 USB drives and a handwritten note. Insurance. Use wisely. See, I plugged the first drive into a laptop at an internet cafe. Photos filled the screen. Daniel at crime scenes he shouldn't have been near. Daniel meeting with known triad members. Daniel handling evidence that would later convict innocent men. The second drive held financial records. Detailed transactions showing money flowing from triad accounts to Daniel. From Daniel to Detective Walsh. From Walsh to other cops. A whole ecosystem of corruption laid out in spreadsheets. The third drive was the jackpot. Audio recordings. Terry Chen had been paranoid, recording conversations for protection, including one from October 10, 2012, 5 days before Jessica Huang's murder. Daniel's voice, clear and cold. My brother's witness needs to disappear. Make it look like she was going to flip, maybe sell information to another cartel. Marcus is always in his office late on Mondays. I can get you DNA samples, make sure he has no alibi. Terry Chen? You sure about this? He's your blood. Daniel? He's a self-righteous prick who thinks he's better than everyone. 12 years of watching him play perfect son while I was the family embarrassment. Now it's his turn. I sat in that internet cafe listening to my brother plan my destruction with the casual tone of ordering lunch. 11 years in prison, and I'd never truly understood the depth of his hatred, but now I had evidence. Real evidence. I called Paul immediately. I need to see the FBI today. Marcus, what did you find? Everything. Daniel, planning the murder, financial records, photos, everything. Jesus, where are you? I'll pick you up. But as I left the cafe, I noticed a black sedan following me. The windows were tinted, the plates generic. Daniel had eyes, everywhere. I ducked into a shopping mall. Weaving through crowds, the sedan couldn't follow, but foot surveillance could. I kept moving, using every trick I'd learned from years of prosecuting criminals who'd evaded capture. Finally, I called, Chen Lu. I need an extraction. They're following me. Where are you? I gave her my location. Within minutes, she arrived on a motorcycle, tossing me a helmet. Get on. We wove through traffic, the sedan lost in the distance. But I knew this was just the beginning. Daniel knew I had something. The careful game we'd been playing was about to turn violent. At Chen Lu's office, I copied everything to multiple drives, uploaded backups to secure servers, created an evidence trail that couldn't be destroyed by a single fire or raid. This is it, Paul said when he reviewed everything. This breaks the whole thing open. Daniel Walsh, the entire network. Will the FBI act on it? With this evidence, they'll have to. Marcus, you did it. You proved everything. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt the weight of what came next. Trials, testimony, media circus, and somewhere in it all, Emma learning the full truth about her family, that her uncle had destroyed her father out of jealousy and greed. Night I sat in my motel room with the USB drives, thinking about justice. For 11 years, I'd wanted revenge. Now, with the power to destroy Daniel in my hands, all I felt was tired. But 17 innocent men still sat in prison. Jessica, who was still dead, my daughter still believed I might be a killer. The evidence would go to the FBI tomorrow. Tonight, I had one more letter to write, this time to Daniel. Brother, by the time you read this, the FBI will have everything. Terry Chen kept better records than you thought. I know what you'll do, Ron, probably. You always were good at running. But know this, I'm not the man you framed 11 years ago. Prison taught me patience. Loss taught me determination. You taught me that blood means nothing when it runs cold. See you in court. Marcos had it delivered to his office at Pacific Rim Enterprises. The war was about to begin. The FBI moved fast. By noon the next day, Pacific Rim Enterprises was surrounded by federal agents. But Daniel's office was empty, his computer wiped, his files shredded. My brother had run, just as I'd predicted. What I hadn't predicted was where he'd run to. My phone rang at 2 p.m. Unknown number. Hello, Marcus. DanielsVoice.com. As ever? Where are you? Close enough. You know, I'm actually impressed. The storage unit surveillance was clever, though you should vary your schedule. Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. is a bit predictable. He'd known I was listening and hadn't cared. It's over, Daniel. The FBI has everything. Everything Terry Chen left behind. You mean, a paranoid dying man's collection of doctored photos and edited recordings. Please, they're not doctored, aren't they? My lawyers will argue they are. Deepfakes are so sophisticated these days, and with Terry conveniently dead, he trailed off, letting the implication hang. You killed him. Cancer killed him. I just visited an old friend in his final days. Even brought flowers to his motel. The staff will testify to my compassion. My blood chilled. He'd planned even this, establishing an alibi for why his DNA might be at Terry's death scene. What do you want to talk? Face to face. Brothers should handle family business privately. Don't you think? The FBI will be listening? No, they won't. Because you're going to come alone tonight. Warehouse District, Pier 47. You know it. I did. We'd prosecuted a murder there years ago. Isolated, industrial, perfect for making people disappear. And if I don't, then Emma gets an interesting package tomorrow. Photos of her dear dad from prison, the fights you were in, the men you associated with, the things you did to survive. Think she'll understand, or will she see a violent ex-con who maybe, just maybe, could have killed a witness after all? Wouldn't I destroyed you once for less reason? What makes you think I'd hesitate now? The line went dead. I called Paul immediately. Daniel wants to meet. Tonight? Absolutely not. It's a trap. Of course it's a trap. But he's threatening Emma. The FBI can protect her, can they? Daniel has resources, connections, and he's right about the evidence without Terry to testify. A good lawyer could create reasonable doubt. Paul was silent. Then, you're going. I have to. Then you're wearing a wire. He'll check. Then we follow you. He'll know, Marcus. He's going to kill you. Maybe. Or maybe he just wants to negotiate. He's a businessman now. Remember, but I knew better. Daniel didn't negotiate. He eliminated problems, and I'd become a problem again. I spent the afternoon preparing, wrote letters to Emma, to my mother, to Paul, transferred the settlement money to a trust for the 17 wrongly convicted men, made sure all the evidence was backed up in multiple locations. If Daniel killed me tonight, the truth would survive. At 10 p.m., I drove to Pier 47. The warehouse district was deserted, fog rolling in from the ocean. Security lights created pools of yellow in the darkness. I parked and waited. Daniel appeared from the shadows, hands visible, walking casually like we were. Meeting for coffee, no wire, he asked. I lifted my shirt, turned around. No wire. Good, let's walk. We strolled along the pier like old times. Except old times never included one brother framing the other for murder. You look good, Daniel observed. Prison gave you gravitas. I almost feel bad about that, almost. Well, you had it coming. Years of being mom's favorite, the successful son, the righteous prosecutor. Do you know what it's like growing up in that shadow? So you destroyed my life out of sibling rivalry. I destroyed your life because I could, because the opportunity presented itself. Terry needed the witness gone, I needed you gone. Elegant solution, and the 17 others. Obstacles. Nothing personal, just business. We stopped at the end of the pier. Water lapped against the pilings below. In the distance, a foghorn moaned. Here's what's going to happen, Daniel continued. You're going to tell the FBI you were mistaken. The evidence is questionable. You're not sure about the recordings. Your prison experience made you paranoid, seeking conspiracies where none exist. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, Emma dies. The words hung in the salt air. I'd expected the threat, but hearing it still, hit like a physical blow. You wouldn't, she's innocent. So is Jessica Huang. Innocence doesn't protect anyone. He pulled out his phone, showed me a photo. Emma at her apartment. Taken today. I have men watching her. One word from me, and she has an accident. Car. Crash. Mugging gone wrong. Overdosed at a party. So many possibilities. If anything happens to her, you'll what? You're an ex-con with no resources, no connections, no power. I own judges, cops, politicians. I built an empire while you learned to avoid shivs in the shower. The FBI will find nothing connecting me to her death. Just like they found nothing connecting me to yours. He smiled. Oh, didn't I mention you're not leaving here alive, Marcus? I'd known it was coming, but my body still tensed. Then why the threats about Emma? Because I want you to die knowing you failed her? Again? You couldn't protect her from having a murderer for a father? Now you can't protect her from having a murderer for an uncle. You're insane. I'm practical. You're the idealist. Remember? Always believing in justice, in truth, in the system working. How'd that work out? He pulled a gun from his jacket. Not dramatic, not threatening. Just a tool for a job. Any last words? For posterity. I looked at my brother, the boy I'd taught to ride a bike, who'd cried at our father's funeral, who'd somewhere along the way become a monster. I recorded everything, I said. His smile faltered. Bullshit. I checked you. I pulled out my phone. Hidden recording app still running. Criminal Law 101, Daniel. Always have backup. That's inadmissible. California's a two-party consent state. For court? Yes. For the FBI to know exactly who killed me? More than enough. His gun hand wavered. For the first time in 11 years, I saw uncertainty in his eyes. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your texts. He kept the gun on me while checking his phone. His face went white. I'd sent the recording to Paul, the FBI, 3 newspapers, and Chen Lu. Subject line. If I die tonight, Daniel Rivera killed me. You stupid successful son. Yeah, I heard that already. I stepped closer to the gun. So what now? Shoot me. Prove everything I've said about you. Or let me walk and spend the rest of your life wondering when I'll release the next recording. You think you've won? No, I think we've both lost. You just don't know it yet. His phone buzzed. Then again, and again. The FBI, responding to my insurance policy. You have maybe 20 minutes before they get here, I said. You could kill me and try to run, or you could just run. Your choice. Daniel looked at me with pure hatred. The mask was completely gone now, revealing the void beneath. This isn't over. Yes, it is. He backed away, guns still raised. At the warehouse entrance, he turned. Emma's safe for now. But if you testify against me, if you pursue this run, Daniel, it's what you're good at. He disappeared into the fog. Minutes later, I heard a car engine start, tires squealing. I stood on the pier, shaking. The recording was still running, capturing everything. Evidence of conspiracy to commit murder, witness intimidation, confession to multiple crimes, sirens, approach from multiple directions. The FBI would find me here, would take my statement, would launch a manhunt for Daniel. But I knew my brother. He had exit strategies, fake passports, offshore accounts. He'd disappear into the network he'd spent 11 years building. For now, though, Emma was safe. The 17 innocent men would get new trials. The truth was on record. I looked out at the dark ocean and thought about justice. It wasn't what I had imagined in prison. No dramatic arrest, no perp walk, no satisfying conviction. Just a coward running into the night and a broken man left standing on a pier. But sometimes that's all the justice you get. The first FBI vehicle screeched to a halt. Agents poured out, weapons drawn. Marcus Rivera. Yes. Are you hurt? No. Where's Daniel? I pointed into the fog. Gone, but I got everything on tape. As they led me to safety, I pulled out my phone one more time. One unread message, from a number I didn't recognize. Dad, it's Emma. I got your letter. We should talk. Maybe there was justice, after all. Just not the kind you find in courtrooms. The FBI kept me for 12 hours, reviewing every second of the recording, documenting Daniel's threats, launching what they called a nationwide manhunt. But I knew they wouldn't find him. Daniel had learned from watching me have an exit strategy. When they finally released me, Paul was waiting with unexpected news. Your mother's been calling. She wants to see you. Since when? Since Daniel's photo hit every news channel in America. She's at her house in Monterey Park, the one Daniel bought her. I almost didn't go. What was left to say? But something in Paul's voice made me reconsider. She sounded different, he said, broken. The house was everything I'd expected suburban perfection paid for with blood money. But when Mom opened the door, I barely recognized her. She'd aged a decade in days, her carefully maintained appearance crumbling. Marcus, just my name, but weighted with something new. We sat in her living room, surrounded by photos of Daniel, accepting business awards, cutting ribbons, shaking hands with civic leaders. The successful son. Is it true? She asked finally. What they're saying? Which part? All of it. Terry Chen's confession. The recordings? Did Daniel really? She couldn't finish. I pulled out my phone, played her the peer recording. Daniel's voice filled the room, casual and cold. I destroyed your life because I could. She listened to the whole thing. When it ended, she sat in silence, hands folded in her lap. Play it again, Mom, play it again. I did. This time, she closed her eyes, absorbing every word. Her favorite son confessing to destroying her other son's life. Threatening her granddaughter, admitting to murders. When it finished, she stood and walked to the mantel. One by one, she turned Daniel's photos face down. I knew, she said quietly. What? Not the specifics, not murder. But I knew something was wrong. The money came too fast, too easy. His explanations never quite made sense. But I didn't want to know. Do you understand? I needed one son to be a success. I was a success. I was a prosecutor. You were perfect. Independent. You didn't need me. She turned, tears streaming. Daniel needed me. Every Sunday, every crisis, every failure, he came to me. Made me feel like a mother. You made me feel like a stranger who happened to raise you. So you chose him. Even after I was arrested. Even after, especially after. If you were guilty, it meant I'd failed with both sons. If Daniel succeeded despite everything, maybe I hadn't failed completely. I spent 11 years in prison. And I spent 11 years believing it was justice. The words exploded from her. Do you know how much easier that was than believing I'd raised a monster? Than accepting that my beloved son had destroyed my other son? She collapsed into a chair, suddenly frail. Every Sunday, she whispered, he sat at my table every Sunday, brought me groceries, fixed things around the house, told me about his week, just like when he was little, before everything went wrong. I thought I'd saved him, thought my love had redeemed him. Mom, he asked about you sometimes. Casual questions. Was I in touch? Had you written? I told him everything, how you claimed innocence, how you were investigating him. God help me. I gave him information. I thought I was protecting him from your jealousy. The room felt smaller, airless. You helped him keep tabs on me. I helped my son destroy my other son? She looked at me with haunted eyes. How do I live? With that, I wanted to comfort her, but 11 years of abandonment stood between us. She'd chosen Daniel at every turn, believed his lies over my truth. Where is he, Marcus? I don't know. Would you tell me if you did? No, she nodded, accepting that. The FBI was here, searched his old room, took boxes of things. They found cash in the walls, hundreds of thousands of dollars. In my house, blood money in my walls. You couldn't have known. I chose not to know. There's a difference. She stood, steadying herself on furniture. I need to show you something. She led me to Daniel's room, preserved like a shrine, trophies and certificates on the walls. All recent, all purchased with crime. She opened the closet and pulled out a shoebox. I found this after the FBI left, hidden behind others. Inside were photos, Daniel and me as children, birthday parties, Christmas mornings, family vacations, before everything fractured. In every photo, we were together, laughing, playing, being brothers. He kept these, said all these years, he kept them. Why would he keep them if he hated you so much? I studied a photo of us at ages 10 and 7, Daniel on my shoulders, both of us grinning at the camera. When had that joy turned to poison? Maybe he didn't always hate me. Maybe it grew slowly, fed by comparison and disappointment. I fed it, Mom said. Every time I praised you and criticized him, every time I asked why he couldn't be more like his brother, I created the monster who destroyed you. Daniel made his choices, and I made mine. I chose wrong. Marcus, every single time, I chose wrong. She pulled out one last item from the box. A letter addressed to me, never sent. Daniel's handwriting, dated 3 years into my sentence. I opened it with trembling hands. Marcus, I won. You're in a cage, and I'm free. Everything you had is mine. No respect, success, power. Mom loves me best. Your daughter doesn't even remember you, but it's not enough. You're still the ghost at every table, the standard I'm measured against. Even in prison, you're still the good son. I'm just the successful one. I hate you for that, for making me prove I was better by destroying you, for making me become this to beat you. We were brothers once. Remember teaching me to ride that bike? You ran beside me for hours, never letting go until I was ready. I think about that sometimes, usually when I'm drunk. I won't send this. What would be the point? You'd probably find a way to forgive me, and that would be worst of all. Daniele handed the letter to Mom. She read it, fresh tears falling. He loved you, she said. Twisted, poisoned love, but love. That's why he had to destroy you. You can't hate that deeply without loving first. It doesn't matter now, doesn't it? Marcus, I need to ask you something. When they catch him in, they will catch him will. You ask for mercy. He threatened to kill Emma. I know, but he's still my son. Still your brother. Still that boy on your shoulders. I looked at the photos scattered on Daniel's bed. 2 brothers who'd become strangers, then enemies. 1 mother who'd loved unwisely. And 2, well, I'll testify truthfully, I said. Whatever mercy he gets or doesn't get will come from the court, not me. That's fair. She walked me to the door, moving like she'd aged decades. Marcus, I'm sorry for all of it. For choosing him. For not visiting. For believing the worst. For failing you when you needed me most. I know. Can you forgive me? I thought about 11 years of prison visits where she'd praised Daniel and doubted me. 11 years of choosing the guilty son over the innocent one. 11 years of enabling the monster who'd destroyed our family. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe someday, but not today. She nodded, accepting that too. As I walked to my car, she called out, Marcus, be careful. Daniel's still out there, and wounded animals are the most dangerous. I know. And Marcus, when you see Emma Bekas, you will see her. Tell her, I'm sorry. Tell her Grandma loves her, and always has. Even when I was too proud and stupid to show it. I drove away from the house Daniel had bought with blood money, leaving my mother surrounded by face-down photos and impossible guilt. The war between brothers had claimed another casualty, but somewhere in those childhood photos was a truth. We'd loved each other once. Before jealousy and crime, and 11 years of stolen life, we'd been brothers. That boy on my shoulders was gone. In his place was a fugitive who'd threatened my daughter and destroyed everything I'd built. Love twisted into hate, leaving nothing but wreckage. The FBI called as I reached the highway. Mr. Rivera, we've tracked Daniel to the Mexican border. We think he's trying to cross. He probably already has. We'll get him. Justice takes time, but I hung up. I'd heard enough about justice to last a lifetime. They caught Daniel 6 weeks later in Honduras, living under the name David Chen, in a beach house, paid for with cryptocurrency. The arrest video went viral. My brother in handcuffs, designer clothes replaced by a tank top and shorts, shouting about conspiracy and frame-ups. Ironic. Considering his expertise in both, the trial was set for spring. 27 charges including murder, conspiracy, racketeering, witness intimidation, and public corruption. The prosecutors, my former colleagues, built their case on Terry Chen's confession and my recording from the pier. They offered me witness protection. I declined. He's already taken 11 years, I told them. I won't let him take another. Day the settlement money had cleared months ago. $10 million for a ruined life. I used it to establish the wrongful conviction fund, focusing on the 17 men Daniel had framed. Within weeks, 3 were released. More would follow. Emma finally agreed to meet 2 weeks before Daniel's trial. We chose neutral ground, a coffee shop near UCLA, public enough to feel safe, private enough to talk. I arrived early, ordered black coffee, and waited. When she walked in, my breath caught. 20 years old, poised, beautiful, a stranger who carried my DNA. She sat across from me, ordered tea, and studied my face like evidence. You look older than your photos, she said finally. Prison. Does that Mom said you were dangerous? That even if you didn't kill that woman, you were involved in bad things. Your mom was protecting you the only way she knew how, by lying, by believing what made sense. A convicted murderer for a father is easier to explain than a conspiracy involving your uncle. She flinched at uncle. I used to love Uncle Daniel. He sent presents every birthday, every Christmas. Paid for my college applications. Mom said it was guilt money, but I thought he was just generous. He was buying forgiveness he'd never ask for. Did you know? Growing up, did you know what he was capable of? I thought about Daniel at 7, crying because neighborhood kids called him stupid. Daniel at 15, arrested for the 3rd time, swearing he'd change. Daniel at 25, bitter about my law school graduation, asking why everything came so easy for me. No, I admitted. I knew he was troubled, angry, but not this. Grandma says you were close once. We were brothers. That means something until it doesn't. Emma pulled out a manila envelope, worn from handling. I kept all your letters, the ones you sent from prison. Mom intercepted them, but David, my stepfather, saved them for me. I've read them 100 times, Emma. You missed everything. My first period, first boyfriend, first heartbreak, driving lessons, college applications, graduation. You missed it all because Uncle Daniel needed you gone. I'm sorry. Sorry. Her voice cracked. I spent 11 years thinking my father was a murderer. Kids at school knew. Teachers whispered. I changed schools twice. Started going by Mom's maiden name. Do you know what it's like to hate someone you're supposed to love? Yes. That stopped her. She looked at me, looked tanned, saw not the father she'd imagined, but the man I'd become. Worn down, built back up, carrying scars inside and out. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. Have a father again. Neither do I have a daughter. We're strangers. We don't have to be. She sipped her tea, composing herself. I'm pre-med. Did you know that? I heard. I'm proud of you. I want to be a pathologist. Figure out how people died, give families closure. Ironic, right? Or appropriate. Mom's remarried. David's nice. Boring, but nice. They have twins, half-brothers, 4 years old, a whole life built on the ruins of ours. Are you happy? I was. Before I knew the truth. Now, I don't know. Everything feels like a lie. The lie was that I killed someone. Everything else, your life, your achievements, your family, that's all real. Is it Uncle Daniel paid for so much? Private schools? Tutoring? College prep? Was he investing in my future, or buying my affection? Does it matter now? Yes. She leaned forward. I need to know nothing in my life came from blood money. Your success came from you. Your intelligence, your drive, your choices. Daniel might have paid for opportunities, but you earned everything else. She wanted to believe. I could see the need in her eyes, the same need I'd had in prison. Desperate to believe something good could survive. Will you testify? She asked. At his trial. Yes. I want to be there. See him. Understand how someone I loved could do this. You won't find answers in a courtroom. Then where? Nowhere. Some people break bad and there's no explaining it. They just do. We sat in silence, two strangers connected by blood and tragedy. Finally, Emma stood. I'm not ready for more. Not yet. But maybe we could do this again. Coffee, talking. I'd like that. Don't expect much. I'm angry at you too for being gone, for not fighting harder, for taking 11 years to prove your innocence. That's fair. But I'm trying. That has to count for something. It counts for everything. She left without hugging me, without saying goodbye. But she'd come. That was a start. The trial began 3 weeks later. Media circus, as expected. Brother frames prosecutor made 4 irresistible headlines. I testified for 2 days, laying out the truth in clinical detail. Daniel sat at the defense table, expensive suit unable to hide the jail pallor. He stared at me the whole time, expression unreadable. During a break his lawyer approached. He wants to talk to you. No, he says he'll plead guilty if you'll speak with him all charges. Life without parole. The prosecutor overheard. Take the deal, Marcus. Save everyone the trauma of a full trial. But I was done letting Daniel control the narrative. No deal. He wants to plead. Let him, but I'm not giving him closure. The trial continued. Witness after witness, evidence upon evidence. The 7 men he'd framed testified via video link. Detective Walsh, arrested months earlier, had flipped and detailed the entire operation. Daniel's empire crumbled in real time. The verdict was never in doubt. Guilty on all charges. The judge, Patricia Chun's colleague, carefully avoiding any conflict, sentenced him to life without parole, plus 300 years. Consecutive, not concurrent. As they led Daniel away, he looked at me one last time. No anger, no hatred. Just emptiness. The brother I had carried on my shoulders was truly gone. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. How does it feel to finally have justice? I thought about 11 stolen years. Emma, a stranger, at 20. My mother, broken by her own blindness. Jessica Huang, dead for knowing too much. 17 innocent men, their lives derailed. There's no justice for some things, I said, just ending. Paul drove me home a small apartment, nothing like the house I'd lost. On the kitchen table sat a package. No return address, but I recognized Emma's handwriting. Inside, a photo from her high school graduation. A post-it note attached. Thought you should have this. E in the photo, she stood between Sarah and David, radiant in cap and gown. My daughter, grown without me. But in her smile, my mother's eyes, Sarah's joy, maybe a hint of my determination. I placed it on the mantel, the first piece of a new life built on the ruins of the old. Outside, Los Angeles churned on, indifferent to individual tragedies. Somewhere, in federal prison, Daniel was learning what I'd learned: how to count days that stretched like years. The phone rang. Paul again. The Times wants to do a feature. Your story, the wrongful conviction fund, everything. No, Marcus, it could help. I'm done being a story. Let the work speak for itself. That night, I sat with case files from the fund, 17 men, their lives systematically destroyed, each one a Marcus Rivera who hadn't found Terry Chen's insurance, each one deserving the justice I'd finally received. Tomorrow, I'd fight for them. Tonight, I stared at Emma's photo and tried to forgive myself for the years I couldn't give her. Justice, I was learning, wasn't about verdicts or sentences. It was about what you did with the aftermath, and I had work to do. 6 months after Daniel's conviction, I stood in front of a room full of wrongly convicted men and their families. The wrongful conviction fund had grown from an idea born of guilt into something real: 3 attorneys, 2 investigators, and 17 active cases. We'd freed 7 men so far, 10 more waited. Justice delayed is justice denied, I told them, but justice denied isn't justice destroyed. We keep fighting. Jerome sat in the front row, free for 3 months now. He'd been case number 4. His conviction overturned when we proved Detective Walsh had planted evidence in his case too. Now he worked with us, helping other inmates navigate the system. After the meeting, Emma appeared in the doorway. She'd been coming to these gatherings quietly at first, sitting in the back. Today she approached the podium. I've been thinking about something you said, about some people just breaking bad. We'd progressed to monthly dinners, careful conversations, over safe topics. Medical school, her residency applications, anything but the 11 years between us. What about it? I don't think that's true. Uncle Daniel didn't just break. He was broken, piece by piece, by comparison, by disappointment, by choosing the easy wrong over the hard right. Maybe. I've been reading the trial transcripts. Of them, his testimony, yours, the witnesses, trying to understand. She paused. He mentioned the bike? What? In his closing statement, before sentencing. He talked about you teaching him to ride a bike, running beside him for hours. He said it was the last time he remembered feeling safe. I hadn't attended Daniel's sentencing, couldn't bear to watch my brother's final performance. He also said something else. That you were the best prosecutor he'd ever seen. That he learned everything from watching you. Just used it differently. Emma, I'm not defending him. What he did was unforgivable, but I think I understand something now. He didn't destroy you because he hated you. He destroyed you because he couldn't become you. That night, I found the trial transcript online. Scrolled to Daniel's statement. My brother was everything I wasn't. Smart, successful, loved. I spent my whole life trying to match him, then surpass him. When crime offered what law school couldn't, I took it. When Terry Chen needed a prosecutor's insight, I sold mine. I told myself I was finally winning. But you can't win a game the other player isn't playing. Marcus never competed with me. He just lived his life, righteous and oblivious, while I twisted myself into shapes trying to beat him at being him. I'm not asking for mercy. I destroyed an innocent man because I couldn't stand being the guilty one. I orphaned my niece because I envied her father. I corrupted justice because I couldn't embody it. Marcus will rebuild. He always does. That's the difference between us. He builds, I destroy. Even now, free and vindicated, he's building something to help others. Even now, convicted and finished, I'm destroying what's left of our family. I loved my brother once, before I learned to hate what I couldn't be. That boy who taught me to ride a bike would be ashamed of the man who framed him for murder. But that boy is as dead as the brother I buried in a cell for 11 years. I have no words for Marcus. He'd probably forgive me, and that would be the worst punishment of all. I closed the laptop, sat in darkness. Somewhere in federal maximum security, my brother was serving life plus 3 centuries. Somewhere in Los Angeles, my mother was learning to live with her choices. Somewhere at UCLA, my daughter was studying to give families closure about death. And here I sat, building something from ruins. The next morning brought unexpected news. The California bar wanted to meet about reinstating my law license. My ex had cleared the legal path, but 11 years was a long time. You could practice again, Paul said excitedly. Criminal defense, this time. You've got the experience from both sides now. But I wasn't the prosecutor who'd walked into prison. That man believed in clear lines, guilty and innocent, right and wrong, justice and injustice. The man who walked, I hope, understood that sometimes all those lines blurred. I'll think about it. That afternoon, another surprise. My mother at my office door, looking fragile but determined. I'm selling the house, she announced. Everything Daniel bought, donating the proceeds to your fund. Mom, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I can't live surrounded by blood money. Can't sit in rooms paid for by other mothers' pain. She pulled out a check, 800,000. What the house and everything in it brought. Where will you live? A small apartment in Pasadena. 1 bedroom. Clean money. My pension covers it. She looked around the office. Simple. Functional. Nothing like Daniel's empire. You're doing good work here. Trying. No. Doing those men you freed. Met some of their families. At the grocery store. The bank. They know who I am. What my son did to theirs. But they thank me for what you're doing. It doesn't erase. Nothing erases. But it builds. New things on old foundations. She stood to leave. Then paused. I visit him sometimes. Daniel. I tensed. He doesn't look good. Prison isn't agreeing with him the way it did you. He asks about you. About Emma. I tell him nothing. Why visit at all? Because I'm his mother. That doesn't end. Even when everything else does. She met my eyes. But I'm your mother too. That's what I came to say. I chose wrong before. I'm trying to choose right now. After she left, I sat with her check. $800,000 enough to hire more attorneys. Take more cases. Free more innocent men. Blood money transformed into something cleaner. Emma called that evening. I got in Johns Hopkins pathology residency. Emma, that's wonderful. It's across the country. I know I'll be gone for years. Maybe more. I know. Silence stretched between us. Then, I want to know you better before I go. Really know you. Not the father I imagined or the stranger you are now. The person in between. I'd like that dinner. Tomorrow, my treat? Somewhere nice. We can talk about things that matter. Okay, and Dad, I love you. I'm not sure how or how much yet, but I do. Thought you should know. The call ended before I could respond. I sat in my small apartment, surrounded by case files of innocent men, holding a phone that carried my daughter's first I love you in 11 years. Outside, Los Angeles glittered in the darkness. Somewhere, Daniel counted days that would never end. Somewhere, my mother learned to live with honest poverty. Somewhere, Emma prepared to heal the dead. And here, in a cramped office above a dry cleaner, we built justice from injustice. Slowly, case by case, man by man. I opened the next file. Robert Kim, serving 25 for a murder he didn't commit. Framed by Walsh, convicted on planted evidence. Another ghost in the machine Daniel had built. But ghosts could be freed. I'd proven that. The phone rang. Another family, another case, another chance to balance the scales. This was my life now, not the one I'd planned, but the one I'd earned. Wrongful conviction fund, I answered. How can we help? In the end, that's all there was. The work, the building, the slow transformation of pain into purpose. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. And something I'd learned was where everything started. Like and subscribe if you've ever had to rebuild your life from ruins. Share your own story of rising from injustice, because the only way we heal is together, one truth at a time.